So we are gathering in the name of the truth. And as easy as it sounds, as complicated it might become. As always, the most simple things in the world can get incredibly complex and complicated when we are taking them through the instrument of understanding, our intellect. Our intellect is wonderful, wonderful, absolutely incredible actually, in order to facilitate particular operations. But to understand truth, to find this inner certainty that doesn't need a confirmation from an external authority, not from a priest, not from a rabbi, not from a guru, nothing, because it's your own understanding. This never can come through an understanding of the mind, an understanding of from an intellectual level. The intellectual level is always subject of it questioning itself. There's always something you can have a conversation about. And as long as you can have a conversation about something, it is subject of doubt. You can create different perspectives, you can create different arguments, you can argue in your head forever. It's never stopping. Therefore, anything we understand in the mind from an intellectual level, no matter how brilliant it is and no matter how many books you can write about it, it never gives you that peace of mind and clarity and certainty that doesn't need any further confirmations. That only comes from what is known as seeing. To see the truth is not to understand the truth. Understanding can be added later for sake of communicating it in a particular way. But that communication is already a little bit filtered and polluted simply by the need. When you go into understanding, you are entering the world of polarity of language. So whatever you will say about the truth is colored. That's why it's so difficult for any teacher to convey the truth, to speak about their seeing, because everything that comes out of the mouth in the world of language about the seeing is already a filtered perception, which is not the thing. Right. And on the other hand, the speaking from the truth, although it gets colored, carries also the transmission and the vibration of the truth. Yeah, so there are the words, but when you are in the presence of the truth, then the words, yes, are colored, but your state of being and the transmission is not. And this is the quality of the space in being together in the name of the truth, because there is the purity of the truth available. But again, it's not in anyone who is saying something that they have it and others have it not. It's not subject of that. When you see it, it's clear, and clarity has no choice. And that is liberating. The truth will set you free. It's on that level, it's what it means. And that's beautiful. So these gatherings are for you an opportunity to work in removing the dust, removing the identifications with knowledge that you have gathered on the way that serves for to have some security, some hold in the craziness of the movement of life. We human beings are subject to be a part of the ocean. So you are a wave, you are in the ocean, and you're asking yourself all those questions. What is the ocean? Why am I moving? Why is it going into this direction and not in this direction? And will I drown as a wave? Or, all kind of things we are asking ourselves, because we feel there's a much greater movement of which we are part of, over which we have no control. And that subject of having no control is hugely, hugely a problem for the ego. Our ego does exist because of the way we are bringing up our offspring. And you have been a child, and because you have been born in a society that is not enlightened, you have been brought up and influenced from a non-enlightened perspective. And that made you become an identity that you believe ever since that you are. So you live as that what others told you you are, and what you concluded on top of that what you are. In lack of having been brought up in an enlightened context where you were not conditioned to be somebody. To be somebody means to be that what you believe you are, and that belief is subject of what you were told you are. You were told you're stupid, and that became part of your identity. You were told you should be quiet, and that became part of your identity. You were told that you are too fill in the blank, and that became part of your identity. And everyone you met on the way has a particular image about you. And they interact with you according to the image they have about you. And usually they want something from you. They have some agenda, either professional or personal, it doesn't matter. And then you are perceived by them as somebody from whom they can get what they secretly or maybe also openly want. So then the image gets strengthened in the context of others' expectations. They have expectations on you. So then you are insecure in the presence of their expectations, and you are trying now to comply, or you're trying to serve, or you're trying to give them what they want because you don't want to be rejected. And all that goes on 24/7. Not only with one person. In the beginning it's usually the caretakers or the parents and the siblings, but then every person you meet, it's the same game. So consistently you are completely confused about who you really are, because all what you became and what you're consistently becoming is a different version of the old wrong identity. Wrong as in it's not true. It's something that has been constructed. So naturally you are at some stage in your life, when you start thinking about yourself, coming to a point where you're asking questions, who am I? And on every spiritual journey, that is one of the starting points. Who am I? Who am I really? Who are you? So there's a story, and the more you are aware of what you're not, the more, or the nearer you are to the truth. Did you hear what I said? The more you are aware of what you're not, and you're clear on that, the nearer you come to the truth. On the path towards the truth, there's only one path, which is to become aware of what you're not. Because to become aware of what you are from the position where you're coming from is not possible, because where you're coming from is already the conditioned non-truth. So this is the consistent paradox. That's why the spiritual journey so often is frustrating, because it's a catch-22. with your conditioned self, called the identity, called the ego, you are trying to answer the question who you really are. It's like trying to see your eyes with your own eyes, which is not possible. So what are we going to do? The path is what you can become aware of by the power of insight, what you're not. So when you are clear that you're not your name, you have a name, but you're not your name. Is that intellectual or is it clear to you? That you're not your body, but you have a body. That you're not your house. I mean, if I ask you, are you your house? You say, no, I'm not my house. I have my house, or I rent my house. Okay, so that's at least clear. Or do you need a guru to verify that for yourself? No, you don't, right? That's clear. So when we come closer to you, asking, okay, are you your body? Then most people are getting a little bit uncomfortable because obviously you are not your body. And so often you just live like you, or you are your body. And then we go deeper, coming closer to you. Are you your thoughts? And that's usually then where it really becomes challenging. Are you your feelings? Are you your thoughts? Yes, you do have thoughts. Yes, you do have feelings. But who are you? Who are you? The fact is that you are. Right? So that one who is aware of having thoughts, the one who is aware of having feelings, what is that? The one who is hearing right now what I'm saying, what is that? Not who. What is that? Now you can say, it is awareness, it is consciousness. You can have answers for that, sure. But what happens with, what's the impact of those answers? Nothing. Then you just have an answer because it's from the intellect. But if you see in this moment, if you look at your fact of being aware, of being able to be conscious about being conscious, because that's what happens right now. You're conscious of being conscious, aren't you? Everybody. Yes. Now that's unique. This is not to be found in any other species on this planet. No animal, and no plant of course, is having the ability to be conscious of being conscious. This is the starting point of the possibility of being a human being. Now obviously being a human being is not stopping having a human body. There's a possibility in you being a human being. Now that possibility goes far beyond the ability to speak a language, because animals also have a language. We hear from experts that dolphins have a more complex language and more distinguished language than even human beings, and so on and so forth. It's just having language is not really the possibility of being a human being. But one thing, which is only a starting point, is being conscious of being conscious. Now, consider that evolution, the principle of consciousness becoming conscious of itself, has planted a seed, which is you hearing right now what I'm saying, and being conscious of hearing or being conscious of the senses, the sensual input, that is the starting point of what a human being can become. Through the human being, evolution can become conscious of itself, and becoming conscious of yourself means that you can take that to the level of eventually becoming an expanded consciousness. Conscious of yourself is a starting point. What are you conscious of? You are conscious of your thoughts, are you? More or less you are. Then are you conscious of the one who is conscious of the thoughts? Now, why would we go that far? Simply because the fact and the sensation that you are not comfortable in yourself, that you're not simply happy and complete, that very fact that you are incomplete in there, that you are suffering in there, that you have a problem in there, may it be isolation, may it be loneliness, may it be being frustrated, may it be, the whole long list of being a human being. The very fact that you're not okay in there shows that you're not you. What you are is that misunderstanding that causes you to be not okay. And that not being okay is suffering. Buddha called it suffering, and every teacher in the history of mankind pointed at exactly that. The fact is that you're not okay with yourself in there. There is a problem. And that's the embarkation point of every spiritual seeker. At some stage, they are stopping to look for answers outside. They see that they have been through so many love affairs and they always end up with the same problem, not being okay in here. Then they start messing up the relationship and up to the next one. They change jobs and they change cities and they change their hairstyle and they change their clothes and they change. Nothing eventually will make you okay. True? Then you're just a different external representation of that what never has been healed in the first place. So all a spiritual path is a path to a state of being in which you are okay, truly okay. Not a problem anymore with being you. That's what it's all about. That's when there's peace, when there is no disturbance any longer going on. When there's no disturbance going on, there's no movement going on, there's space. In that space, life is breathing through you. And what you experience has a name called love, compassion, stillness, space, bliss, beauty. Because all of that is what is when you are not any longer taking up the space in here because you are uncomfortable with yourself. There's nothing that needs to be found, there's nothing that needs to be done. But there's something that needs to be healed, and that's you. So this uncomfortableness is what you need to pay attention to. Now when you pay attention to that, you then have various options to go about it. You can go about it psychologically, so you go into psychoanalysis and you are studying why am I unhappy and what's causing it, and you learn a lot, agreed. You can discover that you have traumas in childhood that are causing you, and so on and so forth. That's one avenue to go about that. Other avenues are energy work and the whole list of spiritual work from all angles, whether you are doing medicine plant healing sessions, whether you are using breath work, whether you are using sound and chantras, they're all mantras, they have all one direction: to make this what is not okay, okay. Now, when you question the approach, when you dare to ask the question, what is my approach to making myself okay? Many people are never asking that. They are decades on a journey of one particular path, and then it doesn't turn out the way they want. Then they blame the past or something like that, and then they seek another one. How many people are guru shopping? How many people are in the spiritual, they go there and there and there and there, always expecting that the next super whatever others invent will do the job. But rarely you find somebody who is putting a stop on all that and saying, wait a minute, let me check what is my approach I'm taking here. First you must be clear about the problem. Otherwise you get confused. The problem is you're not comfortable being yourself. You're in here not okay. We all are masters in creating a fluffy package and stories around that, and I'm okay and you're okay, and there are even songs about it and all the rest of it. But what is the truth? The truth is you're not okay. Not really. You may have found distractions that work, substitutes. You know, if you watch a movie and you get lost in it, you forget about your not being okay for a while. And makes you feel at least having a break. That's why it's so wonderful. Or getting lost in another. Or getting lost in work. Lost means you forget about that problem. Even spirituality can serve as a strategy to avoid dealing with a problem. But then, one day, you are back there, and there is the problem again. And are you with me on that? Yeah? All right. So the one who started one day to try to solve the problem, this one, which is the problem. That which is a problem is trying to solve the problem. That's the problem. If you can see that, then every intelligent person seeing that would do what? Stop trying to solve a problem from the wrong position, from the wrong approach, right? You wouldn't continue doing that anymore. So you as the mind is on a spiritual path. You as the mind. Now, is the mind qualified to be trusted that it has the competence to solve the problem? Do you trust your mind that it has the competence to solve the problem of you not being okay with yourself? Then why are you still asking the mind to solve your problem? Imagine that you would release the mind from solving your problem. Because you say, dear mind, I'm sorry, I was in delusion. I thought you are the one who will find the Holy Grail and solve my problem. I'm so sorry to have stressed you out so much. So you relax now. You wait for me asking you for things that you can do, and I need to find a different way. The mind probably would be absolutely relieved. Not having to figure out how to make you happy. Because you are telling the mind, find a way to make me happy, to make me liked, to make me successful, to make me be in connection with God. All these things you're asking. And your mind is your servant. That means it serves you no matter what you ask the mind. So this service then goes in the pure mind, now needs to figure out how to make you happy. Because you don't know the answer, now the mind must come up with it. So you're not okay with yourself and you give the mind the job to make you okay. And the mind comes up with a million things. It makes you buy the next book. It makes you come to a retreat. It makes you do all kinds of things. And it thinks about you the whole day. Day and night, you wake up in the morning and the first thing the mind is doing is thinking about solving your problems. Because you told the mind, I want to be happy 24/7. You don't have the answer for yourself, now the mind must come up with it. The mind goes cuckoo about that. How can the mind, just imagine you be your own mind for a moment. And your host told you, make me happy. And you say, okay, because you are a servant that is 100% in service of the host. So there's no discussion. Now you need to come up with something. You have a board meeting with yourself 24/7. And the mind comes up with something. Yeah, do this and do that and try this. Speak and not speak and have more compassion here and do some breathing here and all these kind of things. And how did that go? The mind is a device to execute your commands. So, in itself, the mind is brilliant. But when you give the mind a task, to make you okay. The mind has no training, no reference, and for the most, it is limited within its own knowledge, its own restrictions within the box. The mind cannot operate outside of itself. You will always circulate within your own box. You can expand the box, you can learn new things, you can travel to new countries, you can learn new techniques. So you expand the box, you expand the knowledge of the mind, the capacity of the mind, but it's an expanded box. It's not outside of the box. To try to get outside of the box is what has been tried and is part of the spiritual journey through all kinds of angles. The kind of really, don't know how to put it, but you can imagine that it is a box with a code. So there is a door. But the code is a paper that is stuck outside on the wall of the box. So just imagine you are in the box and there is a code how you could get out. But it exists as written on a paper which is on the wall outside of the box. That is the eternal problem. That is always the catch-22. And then we get postcards. We can be very glad that we get postcards. Suddenly we have a moment where we experience life, how it's when we are not in our own internal prison. And there's only one word: wow. Wow. In whatever language, maybe just a language of silence, it's like, whoa. And you know instinctively, without any question, this is it. You know this is it. True? Yeah. And then you want that for the rest of your life. It's not wrong, because of course you want that. It's a real deal. And then the moment you start wanting it, what happens is you're moving, exactly, you're moving back into the energy of desire, of wanting, which only exists inside the box. And then from there, now you have a memory. You have a memory of a moment of freedom, enlightenment, bliss. And that memory is now causing you to be very dissatisfied with going on with the stuff in the box. So your life, no matter how great it was, isn't that great anymore in comparison to what you just experienced. Now you wish probably you never would have received that postcard, right? Then at least you would be in peace in your box. And you could just enjoy the matrix and not being troubled about it. At least not in a conscious way. No, but you were home and you accepted the postcard and now you have a problem. A beautiful problem. This would send you the postcard. Call it existence, call it God, call it higher self, whatever name you want to give the greater. This energy, this existence, this being, assume that this knows the code. Assume that. Because it's outside of the box. It sent you a postcard. So it has its eye on you. You're a candidate for being liberated. Otherwise you wouldn't have that experience, for sure. Those completely unconscious, not scheduled yet to awaken, they don't get postcards. You get a postcard because it's like, hey, you're scheduled, you're in the pipeline. Yeah. We just want you to get a little bit fit for that. So, that, the higher, knows the code. What you gonna do? Connect to the higher, pray for the code. Yes, yes. Makes sense, right? Makes sense to whom? Mm-hmm. And there's much more that can make sense. What happens when the mind is not moving, not active? What happens? Hmm?
It's not in the way.
Yeah, but take a look at it. I don't know if you ever have experienced consciously when the mind is not active. So I'm not talking about absent-mindedness. Yeah? That means that you're just being so exhausted mentally that you think you're not thinking. I'm not talking about that state. Because many people do have that at times, but there's no enlightenment, right? Sure not. I mean, truly the state of mind not moving.
Only love?
Say again?
It's only love?
Yeah, there's only life.
And love?
Yeah, life, love, light, it's all the same. There's this energy. Which means that to reinvent the relationship you have to your mind can be the foundation for the possibility of the mind to be quiet, not active. The moment you ask the mind to do something, it's instant active. But as long as you are expecting from the mind to solve a problem called you, the mind will continuously be busy. If it's not busy with a professional challenge, if it's not busy with cooking, if it's not busy with anything what you need the mind for, it still continues. You can simply become aware of it by, you have done what you needed to do, And now you just sit. And you have, I don't know, half an hour, or even more time to not do anything, because everything is done. The children are in, the whole list. So there is no mind needed now. What you will experience is what?
Freedom. Bliss. Yeah,
No, I mean under normal conditions. You have done everything. So mind is not needed because there is no task you need to do in this moment. You just sit.
boredom. It will freak out.
Yes.
Yeah.
It continues, right? It's consistently continuing. I mean, that's what you experience in meditation, the continuing, the voice just gets louder because now you have time to attend to it. Yeah, you don't have distractions going on. So, that's why many people don't have such a great ecstasy when they meditate, because it's just a more annoying awareness of the activity of the mind. Understood? So the mind is consistently active, although you do not need the mind right now. What you see when you look at the mind activity, you see it's consistently now trying to solve a problem a long time you gave to the mind, which it wasn't able to solve. The problem you. It thinks about you. What you want and what you don't want. Every time you are allowing something you want to take root in you, guess who you expect now to get active with regard to getting this to you what you want? Your mind. Your mind comes up with thinking about how to get what you want. No? Of course. That's what the mind does. Doesn't matter whether it's external or internal. First you want a better car, and then a better house, and then you want enlightenment, and then you want your soulmate, and all. And the mind is then in charge of getting it to you. That's what it thinks about when it doesn't have something to do right now. Yes? So for today, what I'm saying is to revisit your relationship to your mind. As long as you keep delegating to your mind the task to solve the problem, you being uncomfortable with yourself, you have no possibility. There is no pill that will do the job. No experience will ever be lasting, setting you lastingly free. You need to find the code by yourself. No chanting, no matter how beautiful it is, no meditation, no trip of whatever kind will give you the code. It gives you experiences of all kinds. Most of them are in extended box. Rarely you get an experience of really outside the box. But none of that will ever set you free. Sustainable. This you need to get by you solving the problem of the code. And the first thing where you need to start with is to reinvent the relationship to your mind. If your mind is fired, as the one who is supposed to solve the problem you. First of all, of course, you cannot fire the mind, and it would be the most stupid thing in the world, because you would immediately be completely incapacitated and cannot function as a human being. The mind is not the problem. The problem is that you expect from the mind to make you happy, to find a way to make you happy. That's the problem. So just jump ahead hypothetically. Let's say that thing, you and the mind, you clarified your relationship. So the mind is not any longer in charge of finding out how to make you happy. What then happens is that the mind, not being busy, is quiet if it doesn't have to do something. And in that quietness, you are naturally in a relationship to something greater. Because now the space of your being is not occupied by the noise of the mind, by the noise of the voice. You are just there. And that's all what is needed. The code is known by existence, by the greater. It sends you postcards. That means it looks after you. When you make yourself available, the greater will visit you. It will come to you. It's on standby 24/7. But it respects you being busy with your mind. Life is not a force. Love is not pushing. It's there waiting for you until you get that it's time to make space for life. But that means you need to drop your obsession with regard to asking your mind to make you happy. And in the stillness of the mind, what is left is your presence. And then you experience like you are a space in which life mirrors itself. Your senses work. And all of that, what you experience, gets rendered in your brain. So the energy out there gets rendered in your brain and creates this incredible experience, what you know as life. See, I'm over here, I'm just a moving energy. In your brain, it gets rendered to what you then call a human being, somebody you know, and you can recognize everything, and you can hear my voice and all the rest of it. But the fact is, in reality, out there is nothing. It is all rendered in your brain, called life, the most incredible thing in the world. And all of that is a gift of life. Being a human being is a gift. It's an experience that is absolutely phenomenal. Phenomenal. And it's for you to enjoy 24/7. If you are offered a cup of tea and you don't take it, it's not the fault of the cup of tea. Yeah? You don't take it because you're too busy with trying to solve a problem called you. And I'm saying to you, reinvent your relationship to your mind. Say, mind, thank you so much for the last decades of working on something which I see that You should never have been delegated to you in the first place. Try it. And see if you can hold your presence in the absence of the mind being busy with the most familiar problem you ever had, you. See if you can hold being present for 1 hour where the mind is not thinking about you, where you're not thinking about yourself. Okay, cut it down to 30 minutes. Let's be honest, try 5 minutes. That is possible, yeah? 5 minutes is possible. The fun part is if you manage at least a few minutes, so you're conscious, and then you see something incredible. That it's like you are totally on cold turkey. That means you are an addict, like a heroin addict. Everything is starting to want back the familiar movement of something thinking about you, your mind. You just can't be and continue just to be, although you think you want that. So then you see your addiction, you see your attachment. You and your problem is the most intimate relationship you have. It's more important than your children, it's more important than your most significant other. You and your problem is the number one relationship in your life. Go on cold turkey and see how difficult it becomes even after 3-4 minutes to remain from going back into the familiarity of you and your problem. You can experiment here in the situation that you have days now, 10 days ahead, where you basically don't need much mind. Yeah? There is plenty of space for not mind. You can experiment a great deal with that. Try to spend half an hour, don't overstretch it, make it 10 minutes if it's better for you. 10 minutes, try to just be at the pool without asking your mind again to solve your problem. To be liked by others, you know, the whole long list. Just be. Be at the pool. Without the need to solve your problem. And see what happens. And then observe how itchy it gets. You want your hand, everything goes to give me the fix. Give me that. I want my problem back. This no problem business is too whatever. Yeah? It's just too fill in the blank. Yeah? Let me think about myself anymore and my problems. You know, okay, so I'm incomplete with my relationship. How can I solve that? encounter sharing, and this, and that, and this problem I have, and here it's not okay. You hold on. It's familiar. So I'm asking you just to put it down and be at the pool. Then tomorrow, we talk about what is causing that addiction. What is the energy that makes you go back and grab the mind again and ask it again to do the old game, solving your problem? Why can't you just let it be? When you hear great teachers, when they come to the essence and they say, you are already free, or enlightenment is closer to you than your own breath, when you hear these kind of poetic statements, it's all true. And it happens when you let the mind be, because when you let the mind be, the mind lets you be. Then you guys have the right relationship. So the underlying energy, what makes you grab the problem drink again? This is subject for tomorrow. So between now and tomorrow, use the spaces where you're not engaging in the program, where there's no seva to be done, no action to be done. Use those spaces and just see, experiment with. Put your mind aside. It's not difficult. There's no magic in it. Just tell your mind you don't need now to engage in solving the problem me. So rest. It does it. And then see what's happening. Because that what you see, what's happening, is the material we start looking at tomorrow. Okay?